Hello and welcome to another episode of AGEUcational. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So we are a podcast that not only chronicling our journey through aging, but also, we both have aging parents, and so a lot of challenges, roadblocks, hurdles come up. Navigating that. So we just want to let people know you're not alone. There are other people that do go through these same challenges. And what we hope to do is not only provide some insight on some things that we've done, but we also have guests come on from time to time and can talk, professionals or storytellers. And today is no different. We have an awesome guest. We've been waiting a couple weeks to get on tape. So we're excited to have Debby here, and I'll let Terry give her an introduction.
Thank you, Roy. Debby Montgomery Johnson is the founder of The Woman Behind the Smile, Inc. It's a #1 best-selling author, international speaker, entrepreneur, and a podcast host. She is a woman on a mission. In her book, The Woman Behind the Smile, she shares her personal experience with a love that turned into betrayal and financial disaster, and she removes the mask of shame and shows others how to do the same. Many of us have something that we're hiding, something that we're ashamed of, something that through no fault of our own or through our making keeps us hidden from each and other and the world. Debby's background is diverse, from working as a paralegal and senior bank branch manager to being a U.S. Air Force intelligence officer serving at the Pentagon, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and in Germany. Debby, welcome this morning. We're not excited to speak about the topic, but very happy that you are spreading, sharing your story and spreading the message about how scams can affect everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So can you just give us a little bit of what happened to you and where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. It happened to me almost 10 years ago. My husband of 26 years had gone on a business trip, left on a Wednesday afternoon. Thursday morning, I was in a business meeting of my own company, and I got a call from my oldest son, actually left a message that said, "Mom, Dad just died." And then his pause. He goes, "I'm coming home to take care of everything." And obviously, I hadn't planned on that. He died suddenly. And he was only 56.
Oh, wow.
So that threw me into, now what do? I had to run his company, had to run mine. I had 4 children. They were 15 to 23. And I was just stumped. I had not planned on that, obviously. And so it just threw my life into something that I didn't know where to navigate. I had friends, that all of a sudden I was surrounded by people that said, you need to do this and this and this. And life took on motion of its own. And for 6 months, that's what it was. I had to learn how to run loose company, had to keep the bills paid, keep the roof over my head. And I was living life just I call it suspended animation. I put that smile up and tried to be so self-sufficient and show the world that I was okay, but inside I was really falling apart. And
sure,
I had between 12 midnight and 4 o'clock was really the only time I had to myself. And I laid in that king size bed all alone thinking, now what? I got mad at Lou for dying. I got sad because I didn't know really where I was going to go and how to do things. And all of a sudden, my girlfriends were saying to me, you need a life, get a life. You got to get out of the office. You got to do something other than just work.
Right. And
And that's when they got me into thinking about online dating, thinking about dating, which at 52 was a daunting experience.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All those anxieties of when I was a kid came out, about the you're not pretty enough, smart enough, all those things, which was totally ridiculous. But it was a true feeling. Those were true feelings that it was anxiety ridden. And when they said, why don't you try online dating? It might be safe.
Oh, gosh.
My safe meter went on. I'm like, I can control this.
Yeah, and the other part of that is, the dating world had changed a lot, I'm sure, from, the time that you were dating in your teens and early 20s until now. It's just
26
it's such a
years
different
after marriage.
Yeah, it's such a different world out there.
It is funny though, when you ask folks how they've met their significant other, those that met online still kind of go, I met online.
Right, exactly.
Okay, Roy and I must confess.
Yes.
We did.
Yes. Yeah.
We did.
But when you tell people that, it's maybe you guys don't, but many people do kind of talk under their breath.
Seriously.
And that online, there's no stigma, but it's even though it's out there, and honestly, the 30 somethings, that's the only way they're dating.
That's
right
what
now
they know.
is
Yeah.
apps and swipes and all that. Yeah, it's so different.
And all virtually now, and this time.
It is, and that can be scary.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So somebody finally talked you into go ahead and put up a profile on one of the online services. Is that kind of where the story goes from there?
Yeah, the story went, I actually looked back then there was no, on the telephone. It was all online. It was virtual. And I went to dating websites the faith-based sites that I thought would be the safest, that I figured I would find the men that would most align with me spiritually and emotionally, mentally. And honestly, I was very surprised at the beginning at the quality of the 55 to 65-year-old men. And I think I teased at one point, it's the wife beater T-shirts and the guys with the motorcycles. Nothing wrong with the motorcycles, but they had other women. And I was like, they couldn't write worth of beans. It was like a fifth grader. And I'm thinking my late husband was very accomplished and very articulate and worked as a briefer for the Air Force at the Pentagon. And I'm thinking, this is not what I want. Until I got an email from a gentleman. He had his PhD. He was an international businessman from London. And he was a widower with a son. And the only trepidation was, okay, my kids, the youngest was 15. I didn't want to raise another family, but I would be willing to be mom to a boy. I think he was around 10. I could take on that. And I did. And he was, it was delightful initially because he wrote well. And even though we don't speak on the phone at that point, I could see that his bio was good. I checked out the company that he said he was working for. I checked out their website. I did my due diligence, and that was important because I wanted to be safe.
Right.
Yeah, because so many people don't even do that due diligence. I mean, they just kind of take people at their word that, they are who they say they are.
Yeah, and I hate to.
We're very.
Yeah, I was just going to say too, and I think that. In my opinion, don't have any research to back this up, but I think that people who are out to do no good take advantage of the faith-based dating sites because they know that those are people who are probably going to be a lot more trusting just by their nature. So unfortunately, I think it kind of it draws in the people that have bad intentions.
That's a very true statement. And unfortunately, it's not only those sites, but they are particular. And if you show that you're a widow or divorced, I always think back now that we wouldn't be on those dating sites if we were married.
Right.
Well, you wouldn't think. I mean,
you wouldn't think. I mean, that's been proven to be wrong. Also,
right.
You'd think.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So you became involved in this online romance, and how long did this go on before? Yeah, go ahead.
It went all in total. It was almost 2 years.
Wow.
Which to most people think that's extraordinary, but after Lou died, I wasn't ready for a physical relationship. I'd been married for 26 years. I was looking for someone that I could talk to, that I could be a companion with. And Eric was overseas. So it actually was very good for me because I was able to write to him. And I found at that point in my life, it was much easier for me to write out my feelings than to speak them. Yeah. And it was, I guess, very therapeutic to just get out all the sadness and the grief and the frustrations and all running the company, we actually talked a lot about business, and because I was running the business by myself, it's an internet company, I was at home alone. And so when I heard that ding, ding, ding of the Yahoo chat, I'm thinking, well, this is great. Now Eric's on, we would be writing to each other for hours. And nothing was off the table as far as conversation. His family, my family, what happened to his wife when she died, what happened to Lou, the kids, this. It was extraordinary friendship that developed, but it developed rather quickly.
Yeah. Well, just looking back, I know it's hard sometimes when you're in the moment, but now looking back, was he leading you down a road with the conversation, like steering you to, I don't know, sometimes people, they have those suggestive ways or suggestive questions, or have a habit of steering a topic to a place that when you look back, you can say, oh, that was very manipulative, trying to move me over into that space.
Absolutely. And hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
And I look back now, and actually this is interesting. I was interviewed on Saturday for a National Geographic documentary that's coming out next year. And I had to go through my journals. I have 4,000 pages of journal, which chronicled, it was every email message that I got from him that I put into my online journal thinking it was going to be family history. As I was looking back at those emails, it was somewhat of a trigger. And this has been a while for me, so I don't get triggered often. But I did see that they never use your name. It's honey, my love, sweetheart. That way, again, looking back and knowing what I know, they could be talking to 100 women at once, and they don't have to remember your name, because if they do, they call Terry, Debbie, and Debbie Susie. That's a red flag.
Right.
So he did that. And then the other thing, actually, we found this email. It was the very first time he and I were talking about what was real love. And I think I mentioned to him that I had fallen in real love twice in my lifetime. One was with my very first boyfriend, and then with my husband. And so he went on to say, well, is our relationship real? Is our love real? And it was very soon into writing that he did that. And I recall that feeling like, are you sure you want to say this stuff to me right now? Because we don't really know each other.
Right.
But then after a while, it felt really nice that someone was falling in love with me again. And I needed that validation. And absolutely was that a ploy on his part. That's the way they groom you into the relationship. And they become your lifeline. He became my lifeline.
Yeah.
Again, because my kids were gone except for my youngest, and he was busy. He was busy with football. And yeah, Eric became my life. And it was fun. The excitement of the dating at 15 or 16, all the endorphins and the excitement. And it was joy. It brought me joy in a time when I was overwhelmed with running the company and work and trying to keep life going. Yeah. It was the few hours of the day that were pure joy for me.
Wow.
For the most part.
Yeah. Just hit you so vulnerably, and just at your deepest level. Oh my gosh.
Well, and you mentioned the ambiguity of the honeys and the babies. So do you know now, did he have multiple conversations? Was he working multiple angles while he was talking to you, or do you think that after a certain point that he was strictly focused on you?
No, and let me, to put it out there for transparency's sake, I do work with an organization. It's an international organization that works with victims. And I've learned a lot since then. And the scammers are not working by themselves. They used to be called the Yahoo Boys, and we would think that they were these groups of 5 or 6 guys in an internet cafe. Right. Yeah. These are huge groups of people working together in call centers. And I didn't have one guy that was mine. And I thought about this afterwards, because one night I remember I had 3 Yahoo. We went on to Yahoo Chat very quickly. He got me off the website, the dating site. And one night I had 3 open chats going, one with his sister in England and his son, one with his attorney, and one with him. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, after the fact, how did they do that? How did I, I thought I was talking to Mary and Kenny. I thought I was talking to Peter. And then the fact is, how do they remember what I was saying?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was keeping my journal. they actually keep record. They keep playbooks so that other people can step in to the story.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't know that, obviously. I've learned a lot.
Wow. So
That's crazy.
as you're progressing through this, did y'all ever eventually meet?
Not in person,
Okay.
because he was in Houston, my Texas connection.
Okay.
He started in Houston, and then weeks into it, he got a job. He was an independent contractor. He got a job in Malaysia, moving hardwood trees from Malaysia to India. I had investments in trees, which he didn't know about, so I kind of understood what he was doing. And when he left the country, he left the country, there were times when we would have internet connection problems. He couldn't get on the Skype. There was no FaceTime back then.
Yeah.
But when I asked, can we connect somehow, there was always an issue of connectivity. And I didn't know any better. I had traveled around the world, but never to the Far East like that.
Yeah.
And so when he said, I can't get on, or I've got intermittent connection, I believed him. I had no reason to not believe him.
Right.
And so we did most of our talking, as I put it, through Yahoo Chat. It was instant messaging, and it was fun. It was real time. It was fun. I did talk to him just a couple of times, and one was when my son got a hold of an email or a message and just went off the rails. And so Eric called me, and I heard his voice. He had a British accent, which fed into the story that he was from London. Another time, I think it might have been when he asked me to help him financially the first time. And I'm one of those damn Yankees. I don't like to give away money to just anybody. But at one point early on, he started to be part of my family. And I like to say that I would do almost anything for my family.
Right.
And when he became that person for me, I wanted to help him.
Yeah.
And that's when I think he knew he had me, because I gave a lot to him, to his business, and to him personally to help out with personal daily things. But yeah, looking back on that, it was a slow process, but then it sped up. And there's a lot of urgency to it after a while. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get to the bank right now. I've got to do this right now, or he's, going to get arrested, or he's going to not get out of the hospital, or he's not going to be able to move the trees where they need to move it because customs has it. So there's a lot to it.
So what was his first, did any red flags go up when he made that first financial ask? And what was the first financial ask? It's
interesting. It's like any scam. The financial ask at first is relatively small.
Right.
And in our case, he had a friend who was an engineer out of the country, and he was having difficulty getting onto the dating site. So Eric said, hey, would you send a check in to the dating site to get so-and-so, I can't remember his name, get him a profile? And I'm like, well, sure. Because, my experience, there weren't a lot of men, and I'm thinking more the merrier.
Right.
And let's get some good guys. Let's get some educated guys. So that was it. It was under $100, and I sent a check in to the website.
So just kind of
and that started it.
Wow.
That started it. They saw that I was willing to help out. And again, I had no reason to trust that it wasn't really for what he asked me to help with.
Yeah.
And then soon after that, then it got into the business aspect of it. We were having difficulty with him moving something, and we had a tariff, or we had a customs issue. And owning a company, I do realize that sometimes you don't get paid until after the job's completed.
Right.
And that's what was happening here. It was a big job, and he wasn't going to get paid until it was done. Again, the urgency, let's get this done so we can get you home.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm thinking, okay, if I can help him move this forward faster, then I was willing.
Sure.
So,
but it was hard.
I want to back up just a minute. How long, and I know it's all fictitious, but how long did he make you think that he was in the country before he moved offshore
had his first business trip or
well,
whatever?
It was, he was here a couple of weeks, and it was through Thanksgiving. I remember Thanksgiving Day, my mom and dad were here, and I thought, well, I've got this Brit on the line, and he's never had a Thanksgiving. So for the whole day, we were chatting. I was telling him about the turkey and about the preparations and what my father was doing, and it was really fun thinking, okay, we're going to start this new tradition, and I'm going to tell him what it's like being, Thanksgiving in America.
Yeah.
And after that, of course, then my mom and dad got all wrapped up into it because they could see how excited I was.
Right.
I literally had my computer on in the other room and it was on all day long.
Yeah.
We were going back and forth all day long. So after that, I mean, we spent a lot of time together, and it was many times in the middle of the night for me because I thought he was in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, in India. Made sense that it would be the middle of the night.
Right.
Exhausted me the next day, but it was worth the excitement to do that.
Yeah, and I think it just, to point out that these guys have gotten much better. They've refined their game. That, back in the old days, it was more of, hey, I'm on a mission trip. I'm helping. These are the ones that I've heard relayed, that I'm on a mission trip and lost my wallet and I need a plane ticket home or money to eat or get a motel. And so I just find it interesting that this was smart enough to start onshore in the U.S., but then, within a couple of weeks, fairly quickly transitioned to offshore where he could get in the rhythm of, I guess, his time zone where they live, that he had a reason to be up in the middle of the night talking to you instead of during the day.
Right. Yeah. And again, remember, if it wasn't just one guy, time zones wouldn't make a difference because they work 24/7.
Right.
Call center.
But the game is really, it's been upped. They're very well trained now. It's international. It's a multi-billion-dollar economy that we're talking about here. And so far technologically beyond any of us, and we're all pretty well trained, but they are very good at what they do.
Yeah. So how long, and I want you to share what you feel comfortable sharing. So we'll put that limit on it. But so like how many asks were there, and then how long did that part drag out, and then what was the final aha moment for you?
Okay, well, there were many asks, and again, incrementally, they got larger and larger because we were looking at a really big business transaction. And what started off as, Western Union $2,500, this is for power of attorneys, to $100,000 wires to get product or these trees moved across the Indian Ocean. I mean, it was an extraordinary thing. And so again, we were in our relationship for almost 2 years. And then on September 10th, 2012, I'll never forget that day, he came online and we were typing to each other, and he said, "Deb, how do you feel about forgiveness?" And we'd had many spiritual experiences. And again, I met him on a faith-based site, so it wasn't surprising.
Right.
And we talked for hours about that. And then we got disconnected. Again, not something unusual. And when he came back, he said, "Let's revisit what we were talking about this morning. Do you remember what we were talking about this morning?" So again, we went over forgiveness. And finally, I was writing and I said, "Eric, have I done something wrong?" I said, why are we having this discussion? He said, "Well, because I have something to tell you that I think it's going to hurt you. And I just need to know that you can forgive me for doing this." And I was thinking to myself at that point, well, you don't need to tell me.
Right.
You don't need to be hurting me.
Leave me in the dark.
And he goes, "No, Deb," he goes, "I have a confession." And at that, I just had this knife in the gut, because I'd actually heard that once while I was married. And we were happily married, but anybody that's been married for over a week knows that you get the ups and the downs and all sorts of ins and outs of being married. And I had heard, "I have a confession," and it wasn't a happy thing for me. And when I heard Eric say that, I was like, oh, wow, I don't want to hear this. And he goes, "Deb, I have to confess, this has all been a scam." And when I heard that, I'm thinking, something's wrong. You're ill. There's duress there. This is not. And then I said, "You're lying about that. You're lying. This can't possibly be a scam. It's been 2 years."
Yeah.
And I said, "Now you have to prove it to me." And he goes, "Okay, I'm going to come on live on Yahoo Chat." And of course, I'd asked him that for 2 years. So come on live. I said, "How do we do that?" And he walked me through. So here visualize my dual screens in my office, and I have my Hanson Brit up on those screens. And in the corner of my computer screen pops up a little camera live. And I'm looking at this dark-haired, dark-eyed, dark-skinned young man with a big smile on his face. And I just get that, oh my gosh feeling. What has happened here?
Wow.
But in an instant, it was my heart was separated from the story, and my mind finally took over. I picked up my camera and my phone, and I took a picture of that young man. I have one picture of the real guy. And he was a young Nigerian fella. His name was not Eric. He was not from London. He was Joseph from Lagos, Nigeria. Not once in 2 years did I hear Africa, Nigeria, any place that would have been lights on for me.
Right,
you know,
right.
I was a former intel officer for the Air Force. I would have known instantly. So he had this big smile on his face, and he's thinking, hey, can we keep this going? And I'm looking at him like, are you out of your mind? And he said, is it because I'm Black and young? And I'm like, no, it's because you lied to me for 2 years and you stole over $1 million from me.
Wow.
And that's when I hear the vacuum, like people go, let me make it clear. I did not have $1 million in the bank waiting, but I sold jewelry. I cashed in my retirement accounts. I did whatever I could to help him out. And I even asked my mother and dad for help, and they gave me $100,000, which out of the whole million, it's that 100,000 that bothered me the most, because I trusted my parents. I trusted him that we could pay them back very quickly. And when I knew that wasn't going to happen, that just broke my heart. Yeah. It just, and this whole thing, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, did he promise you like I know he promised to pay it back, but did he promise you a return, like you were like this was a business venture, that if you could just help me get this done, there will be a big return for you on top of just paying you back?
The return was he was coming home.
Okay.
He was coming to me. And of course he was coming with all that. Plus he was going to pay me back so that, we had to pay my retirement accounts back quickly, or I was going to get penalized, right. Which happens. And that's the most devastating thing for women and men who this has happened to, is now you've got to pay those penalties back, and you've got IRS issues. I mean, this opens up a huge can of worms, which people don't talk about because they're so afraid of. First off, the scammers know where I live. Well, they're not coming after you. They're cowards. Second off, how do you deal with that? Because now you've lost your retirement. You've lost some have lost their homes. They've lost family members because people think how ridiculous you've been. How could you have done that? They may be retired. They may not have an income anymore. Social Security is certainly not going to pay back hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right. And I'm working with women today that's happening to, and they are they're depressed. They're on the verge of suicide. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to talk to. They report it to law enforcement, and law enforcement basically is laughing at them, because they don't understand the victimization and the psychology of a scam. Yep. It's very difficult. And it's not just online romance anymore. It is every aspect of online life. Yeah. And I know your audience is typically a little bit older, but I had a person the other day that they've been scammed on a translation app. They're Vietnamese, and a British businessman was coming to Vietnam and wanted to learn a couple of phrases so that he could fit in. That developed into a friendship over time, and she lost money. She's a young mother. Right. Wow. Words with friends. A lot of our audience here likes to play Scrabble games, or Bible verses. There are all sorts of online platforms now. Yeah, these guys get into.
And it can be even in person. I mean, around here, one of the big ones is, and I just saw somebody post this the other day about this guy to watch him, but it's like, hey, our company is asphalting this road over here, and we're going to have some product left over, so we can give you an awesome deal. And, they need the money up front, and then you never see them again. So, it can happen anywhere. So this is... I have so many questions. I can't even get them out fast enough. Sorry. But so why did he come clean? I mean, why was the end game? As long as he had this going, why call it off?
Well, I'm sure he knew that I was going to run out sooner or later.
You were tapped out.
And I mean, his story that he confessed, and 99.9% of scammers are not going to confess, and they are not going to come online in person. Right. His story is that he was developing feelings for me. And that may be part of the scam, but I felt that might be true because, a little bit of our goodness has to be rubbing off on these guys.
Yeah.
Has to.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but in my case, I felt like it did. And he knew he couldn't keep it doing it. And honestly, when I asked him, I said, first of all, why are you doing it? And they come up with a story about, our parents, he'd lost his parents, which may have been true. He was taking care of siblings, which may have been true. But the economy over there for these young boys is horrible.
Yeah.
And so when they find something that they can make a lot of money, and out of that $1 million, he might have only gotten 10,000,
yeah.
which was still a lot of money for me. But to him, that would be a tremendous amount of money.
Right.
And so he wanted that friendship to keep going. And it was really interesting because in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I watch enough of TV. I know what the FBI can do. I'm going to keep him engaged just so we can catch him. And when I went to the FBI and they said, well, we're sorry, unless you get him to the United States, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
I just shut down, but kept in touch with him for a little while. And he kept in touch with me because he said he wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And I jumped back into dating. Don't ask me how in the world I could have done it. And I actually met the man. I've remarried, and that's the happy part of my story.
Okay.
But I met my husband 3 months after the scam through friends who were online, but they were matchmakers. But when I told Eric or Joseph, whatever his name was, that I had met my husband at the time, a man I was starting to date, and that I really thought it was going to go somewhere because he was local, he was geographically desirable.
Yeah.
That's when Eric came on and said, Deb, I'm happy that you're safe. He goes, I will try to get part of the money back to you. Not holding my breath on that.
Yeah.
He goes, but this is probably the last time you'll hear from me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was like in January, and he disconnected.
And it's such a different environment. I'm not making excuses for them, but like those, if they're good at what they do, they can't just quit and walk away. I mean, in those environments over there, they will disappear and, more than likely be killed, or their family will be hurt too. So I'm just very surprised that he came on and made that admission, in regards for his safety as well.
So am I. And honestly, for me, it was the best thing he could have ever done. Yeah. Because if he had just dropped off the internet, I would have thought he died.
Right.
And then I would have felt like I felt when I got that call from my son about my husband dying.
Yeah.
But at this point, I had given all my savings away. And I felt, I would have felt awful.
Yeah.
So it gave me closure. And it's really interesting because I use that picture when I'm talking with women that have not had that experience, that of the guys who just dropped off the face of the earth. Yeah. I'm like, look at this picture. This is the picture of who's been taking advantage of you.
Right.
And so I'm really grateful that he did that. Will that picture get him caught? I don't know. Yeah. And that's not my mission. Right. His picture's certainly been around the world. Yeah.
So. Well, like even we were talking to my mom about this interview, and she was saying that she, I'm not going to give away her age. She's older than me, obviously. But, she said even some of her friends at church had been through the same thing. Not to your extent, but it happens everywhere to everybody, and I'm sure that we all know somebody that this is afflicted. So let's just talk for a minute. Looking back, say, what are some red flags that it's easy for you to tell now? Just to kind of give others that warning. Things that they should be conscious for to maybe help them avoid this.
Sure, absolutely. And again, it's not just dating sites because I've heard a lot of people go, oh, it's never going to happen to me. Never going to happen to me. It's happening on every gaming site, social media sites. So watch out for Google Hangouts. If they're moving you to a Google Hangout, that is, sorry, Google, but it is full of scammers. If they're requesting a Facebook request.
Can I stop? I'm sorry. Can I stop you there? What is the lure? I know they want to move you off of that platform, but the Google Hangouts is not the first time I've heard that's where they want to move people. Is there a reason for that, or just easier for them to communicate with you?
It's easy for them. And again, you think that you're talking to all these friends. I was talking with a woman the other day, and she was sure that this Google Hangout was a group of women and a couple of men. So in my mind, I'm seeing this whole group of scammers in one room, and she's the only one that's outside, but now she's friends with everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Now I see. So they're probably all sitting next to each other in a call center somewhere, and and that way, I guess they can work her from different angles. Like, oh, he's such a sweet guy, you should really get with him, or something like that.
Maybe they don't ask specifically for more account information.
Which was happening on Yahoo Chat, because I was getting a hold of his sister, asking his sister about him, trying to validate who he was. Now they're feeding me all the stuff they want me to hear. Google Hangouts, WhatsApp. WhatsApp is the telephone that they'll try to get you on WhatsApp. Now, I have a team in India that I work with for my company, and we communicate via WhatsApp. Be careful. You don't want to be out there to everybody on WhatsApp. Be specific in who you're dealing with.
Okay.
On Facebook, people that are trying to become your Facebook friend. Be careful. If it looks too good, it's too good. If it's a military guy, it's definitely a scam.
Yeah.
If it's a really good looking man, always do a reverse search, a picture search, to see if you can find out if those pictures have been stolen for the most part.
Yeah.
But they get really clever, especially with women's groups. They friend one person, and then now they're mutual friends.
Right.
So Terry and I are in this group.
Yeah.
You come in and you see that she's your friend. I see that you're friends, so I would friend you, thinking I trust her, she must trust him.
That must be a safe bet.
Always be careful.
Yeah.
Check to see what their friends look like. And so on our side, clamp down your privacy settings. Don't let people see your friends. Don't let them see don't let people outside of in the public see your pictures.
Yeah.
Don't put your grandkids up there. And at first I had a hard time with this because I love my grandkids, but when I realized that they're taking pictures, I can get pictures off of your profile on Facebook and I can use them.
Right.
And I do for my show. But my grandkids, I'm sure that the pictures that Eric sent me of his sister and his sister and son, those were just stolen pictures. That little boy belongs to somebody, but not him.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that it's been a while, but the context, the sentence structure, and I'm from Texas, so my English is very poor, but it's like if I can pick it out, then but that's something that a lot of times that I guess they're the non-polished ones, but I used to get the emails like, hello, I am like I am Karen by name, or it's just weird stuff written in, or like not long ago there was one that's like, hi, I am Karen, I am from the United States of America, but I'm stationed in Europe or something.
Yeah.
It's just
some
like
kind of broken English type.
Yeah. Some of them are telltales like that, but honestly, they are very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And it's not as apparent as you think. I mean, I look back and I did get that very first thing, you can call me Eric Cole, which I remember saying that was an odd way of saying my name is.
Yeah.
But because he was from England, he came back and said, well, that's lingua franca, and that's the way we speak. And so I was like, well, that's kind of cool. It justifies it. But he was very good. And I'm a real anal person as far as spelling and that kind of thing.
I am
too. He did not. His English was excellent. So it's not the Nigerian prince who can't say boo.
Right.
These are very well trained, and they've got playbooks, and they use the same stories. They just change the characters. Yeah. And because I'll have women say, when I actually wrote a book called The Woman Behind the Smile, and I'll have women read it and they're like, wow, that was my story, but the name was changed. Or someone, interesting, you guys are in Texas, there was a big business email compromise roundup of scammers in Dallas. And two women that I know, their romance scammers got pulled in with that group, which was a little bit good for them.
Right.
But typically they're not here in the United States.
Right. Those
girls said to me, one of them, in my story, there was a courier and he was bringing money in, and they were, we had to pay I had to pay a lot to get it through customs, but I don't want anybody to hear that story. And I'm thinking, well, that happened to me. And she said, why didn't you talk about that? I'm like, because It happened at the end of the scam. And for me, the reveal and all that, the forgiveness, that trumped the story about the box. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they do talk about the same things, or they use the same ideas. But because the victims won't talk about it, we don't know what they're saying.
Right. Exactly.
We don't.
There's so much shame behind. I mean, they just feel ashamed that, oh my gosh, somebody pulled this over on me.
You're ashamed because you're well trained, you're financially well off, you're just really good-hearted men and women, and think that it should never have happened. But it happens to every one of us gets scammed at some point in our life.
Right.
Maybe not to the extent that I did, but if you get scammed out of $250, that's $250 too much.
Exactly.
Right.
So the sad part is our grandparents' age, between 75 and 85.
Yeah.
They're losing their life savings, and they don't have a chance to ever get that back.
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah.
And I'm talking with a woman now that she's divorced 15 years, has no family, brother, and she was $700,000 in the hole. And she said, Deb, I don't know what to do. The IRS is going to come down on me, and that's when I have to get my resources together, because I'm not a therapist. I'm not an attorney. I do have resources out there that I can get this woman in touch with, but the shame of it all, she goes, I'll never find light at the end of this tunnel.
Right.
And she won't if she stays home alone.
Yeah.
If she doesn't get out and talk about it.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to bring, it's a little bit different of a scam, but also emails. I just always tell my mom, if you get an email, even if it's a company that you use or your bank, and they want you to log in, never log in through the link that they provide, or call them on the phone to say, I got this email, get somebody to walk you through it, because, these phishing expeditions that they go on, I mean, it's just, I'm bombarded by them every day. I probably get 5 or 10 every day. My Netflix account's going to be frozen. My Amazon account's going to be frozen. Terry got one the other day that said, thanks for your purchase of $500 and something TV or some, it was this huge number that makes you go, wow, I didn't do that. So the first thing you want to do is log in, through their site right there and try to take care of this. And so just another warning. It's like we're being bombarded, and I think the older we get, the more vulnerable we are, because we don't really know. And then there's that pressure to hurry. And that's what there's always that urgency that we've got to do this. If you want to take advantage of this awesome deal, you got to do it right this moment. Kind of like the asphalt scammers, They're standing right in front of you saying, this is your last chance. You're going to miss out. Sometimes we just, my personal opinion, sometimes we have to miss out on those good deals just to make sure that it really was a good deal.
Right.
Well, I heard one time, and this resonates too, is when your grandmother used to say, just sleep on it.
Yes.
Put some time. That shiny object, if it's really true, it'll be shiny tomorrow. No. If not, then step away. And my father's gotten 5 calls from Amazon the last week about $759 something.
That's what mine was.
Yeah. No, I said, Amazon doesn't call you. I've been trying to deal with them with my seller account. I can't get anybody to call me.
Exactly.
So
right.
It's not real. But it's tough. My mom gets caught on this all the time. They'll use a local area code, and she'll think that somebody nearby is calling. I'm like, don't answer it. No. If it's someone that needs to talk to you, they'll leave a message.
Yeah, and that's a good advice too, because these guys have gotten smart, and they'll make their phone call from the same area code or one that's close to where you live. But what it's like I tell my parents is that just let it go to voicemail. It's not going to hurt. No use picking it up, because you don't know who it is. If they're not in your contact list where it comes up that, hey, it's so-and-so calling, just let it go.
Yeah.
It's no urgency to answer it right now.
Why do we feel the urgency to answer the phone, on the
first
ring?
I wrote about it this morning. It's called FOMO.
FOMO.
Fear of missing out.
That's true.
Okay. We don't want to miss out. And our parents, for instance, they don't want to miss a doctor's office call.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, they'll leave a message.
Right.
You hear them, then pick it up.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and there are so many. I just wanted to mention the National Council on Aging had the top 10 scams targeting seniors. So I wanted to just kind of go through a couple of those, throw them out there. Medicare is listed as number one. Counterfeit of prescription drugs, funerals, anti-aging products, telephones, internet, investments, mortgages, sweepstakes and lottery, and the grandparent scam. Now that one, well, all of them are bad, but the grandparent scam where somebody will call you and say that they're your grandchild and that they need money for something. They've been in an accident and they need money to pay their hospital bills, or they got arrested and they need to get out. And don't tell my parents. They'll call and say, "Oh, hey, do you know who this is?" And then the grandparent will be like, "Oh yeah, this is Stacy. Hi, how you doing? I'm so glad to hear from you." That's their granddaughter. That's crazy.
Well, this happened to Mom actually, and just so happened my daughter was sitting right next to her when this person called and said, "Hey, I'm traveling abroad, and we're stuck without money," and she's like, "Well, I'm sitting right here next to her." So I mean, but again, sometimes it's an accident. They're fixing to be in trouble. They try to build that urgency in. And then the Medicare and the IRS, I think those are a couple phone calls that I've gotten lately. This is the IRS, and if you don't respond to this immediately, then we are. And it's funny because they said the English, we will send the coppers out to pick you up or something.
Send the bobbies.
The IRS scam actually originated out of India, which
really?
Makes sense.
Okay.
That's a huge
that they would
one.
say that. But the IRS doesn't call you ever.
Right.
But they make it so urgent, and it scares people because nobody wants the IRS on you.
Yeah.
Right.
Or lose your Social Security benefits. If that's all that you live on, they feel like, well, I can't take a chance that this is true. And so anyway, it's just, there's so much out there.
The other thing they'll do is they'll say, go to Walmart and get gift cards.
Yeah.
Or go to Publix and do, Western Union. But gift cards is the biggest red flag today.
Yeah.
Because all you need to do is give them the number on the back and they've got the cash.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And they can run away and never get caught. So anybody asking you for gift cards, absolutely no.
Okay.
Money, absolutely no.
Yeah. All right, Debbie. Well, Terry, you have anything else?
Well, I mean, we could go on and on.
Right,
This is
right.
just never ending.
Yeah.
So you are a member of Society of Citizens Against Romance Scams. Is that right?
Relationship scams. Yeah.
Relationship
the acronym
scams.
for SCARS.
Okay.
SCARS.
Okay. And
it's an international nonprofit that works specifically with victims worldwide of relationship fraud.
Okay.
And you can, that is an excellent organization. We've got information for family members on how to do an intervention. We've got every kind of story of information about the different scams that are out there. We can report it. You can report to againstscam.org. We are working with the FBI, with the Department of Justice, with Homeland Security, and with victims. We have victim support groups on Facebook. And I want people to be careful because a lot of times when you've been scammed, you go searching on websites for scammers, and many of them are run by scammers.
Wow.
Investigative services are run by scammers.
Never would have even thought of that.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. They've got a lock on it.
Yeah.
So go to a reputable organization, and SCARS is one of the only, if not the only, victim associated nonprofit organization in the United States.
Okay.
So,
SCARS.
And is that, what's their website?
It's romancescamsnow.com.
Okay.
All right.
And
great.
you can also, my website, which is thewomanbehindthesmile.com, I do have links over to that. And we talk about it all the time, not just my story, but every kind of scam that's out there. And it's important. And I'm being interviewed tomorrow by a media source that says, well, with all of us talking about it, why are people being taken?
Yeah.
The problem is not all of us are talking about it.
Yeah, that's the key.
And the victims certainly aren't speaking up. And we need people to report, because the government won't know how bad this is unless we talk about it.
And it is
embarrassing.
A lot of the victims too are isolated, and so it's sometimes it's just the attention that they get is what really sparks them. But it's, unfortunately they're not listening to our shows or reading this material, so
we just have to get it out.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's more everybody talking about it more and keep getting it out there and try to reach. And it's the conversations that we should have with our loved ones, with our parents, with our kids. I mean, you should have it with everybody, because they're targeting everybody. I mean, this show, we definitely reach out to the aging, but they're out there looking for anybody.
And the hard part too is the one woman I was working with the other day, she's by herself. And if you can imagine, the scammer occupied half of her day.
Right.
Well, now she doesn't have that. So how does she fill up that time? And she's anxious and depressed. And she's like, I can't walk, so I can't exercise. And I'm thinking, what can she do that's positive to change what she was doing before?
Right.
And it's tough. And, she's writing to me, and I can't do it all by myself, but I am sending her back things. We need that support group. We need friends to listen and really hear what we're saying, because a victim will never tell someone she sent money.
Yeah, right.
That she might have a friend out there. I've got this new friend and he makes me happy.
Right.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. What about what about volunteering for? Do y'all take volunteers? People can sign up to help to talk with other people.
We do on SCARS. Typically, our volunteers have been scam victims themselves.
Okay.
Because it's a different kind of trauma. It's
cuts deep.
That's why you can't really walk into a police department and explain to them, because they don't get it.
Yeah. Right.
It's not a victimless crime, because what happens now is you have families that are falling apart. You have the person that's falling apart. But to understand how you could be taken like that, it happens when you've had a great loss. It could be a death, it could be a divorce. It's that perfect storm. And typically I would not be taken.
Yeah.
And if it could happen, if it could happen to me, and I was well trained, it could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
It's your heart gets hijacked.
Well, talking about loss.
So
yeah.
That's another thing that these guys will do is they will comb through obituaries looking for, and it's a little bit more difficult that they're not in a paper, but I guarantee I know a guy that used to be in the financial services business, back in the 70s and 80s. That's what he did. He would comb the obituaries in the paper every morning, find a woman whose kids lived out of state, and then he would call her and say, Debbie, I'm sorry for your loss. Me and Herbert were talking this last couple weeks, and we were just fixing to sign all these papers to, move your money. Now, he wasn't stealing the money, but he was basically running the scam in order to get the accounts where he could manage the money and make commissions off of it. But I mean, they will find this information about how they will seek out these vulnerable issues that people have, and loss is a good one for them to go for.
They do check that out, because after my husband died in April, and when I filed taxes the next year, someone else had already filed a tax return on him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the check had been sent to an address in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
So I couldn't file online after that for a long time, because now my account had been flagged, and I'm thinking, well, shoot,
Yeah.
that's not right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's amazing. If there's a way, they're going to find it, and they're very good at it, and they'll exploit it. And if they could do for good what they do for bad, they'd be phenomenal.
Exactly.
Phenomenal salesmen.
Well, thank you so much. I know we are way over on time, but I appreciate appreciate this so much. It's a lot of great information, and just keep up the good work. Tell us one more time, if somebody wants to reach out and get a hold of your book, tell us how we can do that.
I would go to thewomanbehindthesmile.com. If someone has been a victim, please have them email me. It's Debby, Debby, at thewomanbehindthesmile.com. I do return emails, and I will try to get you the resources. And go to romancescamsnow.com.
Okay.
which is the STARS organization. Or to report it, go to ic3.gov, which is the FBI site, and againstscams.org.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Keep up the good work, and let's get as many people, let's get the word out to as many people as we possibly can.
Yeah, we're so glad you're sharing your
Thank
story.
you so much.
What a great thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad it sounds like you've made a good recovery, and hope that you're very happy in your current relationship.
Congratulations
so that's good
on your marriage.
I guess the the reality is people don't bounce back, and I hate to just keep on going, but people don't bounce back. Seniors, sometimes lose their homes and they're homeless and have to go live with a child, or sometimes even on the street. So there's a lot of ramifications that go along with this. But thank you so much. We appreciate it. That's going to do it for another episode of AGEUcational. Of course, I am Roy.
I'm Terry.
You can find us at www.AGEUcational.com. We are also on all the major social media platforms, as well as all the podcast platforms: iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Spotify. If we're not on one that you use, please let us know. We'll be glad to get that added. Also, if you're a professional in the aging services, targeting caregivers, the aging health, if you have a good story like Debbie does that we need to get out to others, please let us know. We'd be glad to try to get you on one of our future episodes. Until next time, y'all take care of yourself and take care of each other.
Thank you. Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it.